You know, they say that for every language that a person speaks, they live a new life. And personally, I've always had an affinity to languages. I've been fortunate enough to have been able to live in different parts of the world and in different countries. And also my background being quite diverse has meant that really by accident, I've been able to learn and almost become a native speaker of a few different languages. Languages that are extremely different from each other. So first of all, مجمريا ما بزحتوا أبكز أنا تقرينا إن نزارب تقرينا أنا إرترا قانقايو ومعه كمان بتكلم عربي. والله أنا ما بعرف كيف تعلمته، يعني نفسي وأصلي مش عربي. يمكن عشان كنت بشوف أفلام وكرتونات بالعربي لما كنت صغير. Och självklart pratar jag också svenska, så jag växte upp och jag är född i Sverige och bodde där tills jag var 14. And then we moved to the UK when I was 14. And initially it was a bit difficult to pick up the language, but I mean it happened very quickly after that. And now I feel like I've lived here almost my whole life. But now that, you know, I'm a final year medical student and I don't have to focus as heavily on academics, I feel like it's time to conquer a different part of the world. And when I was in school, they made us choose a language to learn. And I decided to pick Spanish. And I wish I had taken it more seriously at the time. It was literally free tuition. You had so much access to teachers, and teachers who were there purely in order to help you be able to speak better in that language. But at the time, my priority was not to learn Spanish or anything really for that matter. My priority was to get good grades and get into medical school. So I've set myself a challenge. I've given myself 2 weeks to learn Spanish. And at the moment, I would say I'm sitting at 10 to 15% proficiency. I want to get up to about 50, 60, 70%. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I'm going to test myself in some form. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do that, but I'm sure I will find something that is interesting and creative in order to do that. One thing I'd like to say is head over to my Instagram and follow that if you want to see behind the scenes of how I filmed these videos and also behind the scenes of medical student life. The @ will be here, and yeah, so let's see how it goes. I wanted to use this week as an introduction to Spanish. I spent my time very lightly trying to get into the swing of things. I knew that the best way to familiarize yourself with the language was to try and immerse yourself in it. So I did a few Google searches and I found a podcast on the Apple Podcast app called Coffee Break Spanish. I was working full-time this week and my commute was about 45 minutes to an hour, so being able to just put my headphones in and continually be learning on the commute felt extremely useful. Initially, I was quite surprised about how little I knew. The podcast went through basic conversation, basic words and conjugations.
Vivo en Glasgow.
People in Glasgow.
I honestly felt that at times I was drowning. At the same time, I was making some progress. Every time I heard a phrase I didn't know, I wrote it down in the notes app on my phone. And I got through about 30 episodes of that podcast in that week alone. I was sitting here and thinking about how I should test myself at the end of these 2 weeks. You know, should I bring someone who speaks Spanish onto the channel and just have a conversation with them? Or should I just have a conversation with the camera kind of directly? But then it came to me, what better way is there to test your language skills than going to the place where they speak the language? And obviously for this channel, we go above and beyond, and that's especially true for this challenge. So I went online and I went on the Ryanair website and I found the cheapest tickets to Spain next week. And I can't believe I actually booked the tickets and I'm going to Malaga. I'm going to Spain literally next week for 1 day just for this video. And usually I'm quite spontaneous, but I'm spontaneous on going on like local motives, not to a different country. So yeah, so I mean, it's all been booked, and yeah, I mean, subscribe to the channel. Let's see how things go and let's see if I can make some progress up until then. But everything is booked and the deal is sealed, essentially. So at this stage, it was time to get to proper study mode. I wanted to utilize the skills I had learned from studying medicine for the past few years, mainly active recall of flashcards, and also just being able to sit down for long periods of time and remaining committed. Today is the first day that I've actually kind of been sitting down and studying intensely for it. At the moment, it's the evening, and I don't exactly have a strategy, I would say. I feel like I need some kind of basics to work off from and then formulate a strategy as I kind of go through things. Here's the issue. I find it difficult to strategize when I don't have clearly identifiable problems. And sometimes when you're overthinking about how to start, it tends to never really happen. It's one of the biggest reasons of procrastination because you feel like you have a mountain to climb. That's why I thought I would adopt something called the sprinter methodology, meaning just getting started and regularly evaluating progress. But two things that I do know though is that number one, I work well with flashcards, and number two, I work well with pattern recognition. So in order to kind of start off from some basics, I literally just went on YouTube and searched learning Spanish, and the first thing that came up was this, which is learning Spanish in 4 hours, which is very optimistic, and that is not what I'm trying to do. But the video goes through some sentences and then translates them, which is quite useful because then you can kind of recognize the patterns. But also I do have an application on my laptop which is called Anki, and that is an app that I use for med school as well, and it's a flashcard app. And on there it allows you to kind of actively recall information, so I can input words and recall them, and then also kind of space out how often you go through it, so space repetition as well. So on Anki I have 3 main decks. I've got one with kind of common Spanish words that I want to learn and that I don't know, and then I also have common Spanish verbs and then common Spanish phrases, and then I just put them in, and then I try to go through this flashcards regularly. I used that video for a few days together with a podcast and Anki, but I was becoming increasingly frustrated. I was memorizing sentences and that was working out fine, but I found it difficult to work out the grammatical rules. I felt like I wouldn't be able to string together sentences even if I tried very hard. And when I tried to watch some Spanish content online, I just couldn't keep up and make out the words. It was at this stage that I realized I was neglecting some key components of language learning. Now, language can be divided into 2 broad categories, each that is controlled by 2 separate parts of the cerebral cortex, or the brain. So first you have receptive language, and this is important for language comprehension, and is controlled by the Wernicke's area. And the Wernicke's area is close to the ear, so that when sound enters into the ear, signals can be transferred directly into the Wernicke's area and be understood. And the second one is expressive language, and this is controlled by the Broca's area of the brain. And this is important for building speech or producing speech and language. And these 2 areas are linked by a connection. You can think of it as a cable between these 2 parts of the brain, and that connection is called the arcuate fasciculus. And now what happens is when you're having a conversation with someone, the sound enters into the ear, goes into the Wernicke's area, is processed by the Wernicke's area, and then is understood, and then via that cable is transferred into the Broca's area, and based on what you understood you will produce speech, and the signals will be sent to the mouth, you produce the speech, and the sound goes to the other person, and then they produce some more speech and it goes in, and you have that circle. Now you might be wondering, why are you mentioning all of this? Well, the reason is that you can't become proficient in a language unless you try to strengthen that pathway in that language. Now, for example, for receptive language, you need to have the vocabulary to understand the meaning of the words, and you need to have the grammar to understand how that sentence structure impacts the meaning. And then you also need to have the listening skills to be able to make out the different sounds of the different words when someone is speaking them. And then for expressive language, you need to have the recall to be able to retrieve the vocabulary you have already learned. You need to have the grammar to produce the sentence structure that is correct for the intended meaning. And then you also need to have enough practice in order to actually produce that speech and get it out of you and express it. And I feel like at this stage I have lacked 2 important aspects: the listening and the speaking. For the next few days I changed things up. I found a few series to watch. I watched all episodes of a really cringy show called Extra. Then I moved on to some more difficult shows as I got better, mainly Narcos, El Chapo. I would initially watch these with Spanish subtitles. To address the grammar, I found this YouTube channel called Butterfly Spanish. This was honestly gold in explaining difficult grammatical concepts in simple terms. But I wasn't able to practice speaking as much, and I don't think I did enough of this. Okay, so if you watched so far, then obviously, merci beaucoup for watching. Right now I'm in Malaga, and basically the only reason why I've come here and I'm staying only for a day is literally just to test out my Spanish and to see how much progress I might have made. I mean, there's a little side reason, which is I've always wanted to travel alone, so see how that goes as well. Quite interesting. The weather is just feels amazing. It's so kind of it's pleasant. The weather's pleasant. But yeah, so, and the test is really going to be, I'm only going to be speaking Spanish while I'm here with everyone who's here as well. So am I going to be able to understand what they're saying? Can I make myself understood without things being kind of awkward? And yeah, let's see. I mean, can I survive here on the Spanish that I have right now, that I've got in the 2 weeks that I've spent? Yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah, so follow me on this solo trip and let's see how it goes. I had an amazing time in Malaga. Honestly, shout out to the Spanish people who are so welcoming and pleasant to talk to. First stop was to head to the hotel, where I thought I would check in Spanish.
Anas, ¿qué más?
Anasnuurali.
No, ¿puedo tener el pasaporte? Okay. Para una noche, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Muchas gracias.
Tengo algo preguntas.
Sí.
¿Esa reservación incluir Wi-Fi y internet? ¿O?
Sí, nosotros tenemos wifi, Para el wifi se tiene que conectar a la red de Ibis y ahí le va a pedir que ponga número de habitación y su apellido, Nur.
Okay.
¿Vale?
¿Y cuánto tiempo necesito para check out por la mañana?
Hasta las 12 de la mañana.
12 de la mañana. Sí,
Sí.
gracias. Okay. ¿Puedo pagar 20 euros por cash?
Sí.
Y,
Sí, el resto
sí,
lo hacemos.
por
Entonces le cargo 46
sí.
con tarjeta.
Yeah.
A ver si pone sí. A ver, número.
¿Es bien?
Vale, sí. Me dice, ¿quiere pagar en euros o pounds?
En euros. Gracias.
Y 20 euros. Muchas gracias. Aquí le dejo una factura.
Sí.
Y habitación tercera planta 329. Vale. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. I took a nap just chilling in my hotel room and continued exploring the city. I checked out the port, which just looked insane. I spent some time reflecting on my future goals and what I wanted to be doing for the next few years. It's honestly been an eye-opening experience traveling alone. I then went to get some lunch and got into a conversation with the guy working in the restaurant.
Por ejemplo, si tú hablas así, has aprendido español en 2 semanas, pues mejor hablas mejor que dice que lleva 1 año aquí.
O no puede.
No puede.
No puede.
Pues tú hablas muy bien, de verdad.
Yeah.
Por lo menos.
Aprende en mi escuela, pero no, es difícil.
Aquí tienes contacto con gente,
Yeah.
el tiempo.
Contacto con... sí. ¿Cuánto tiempo vives en Malaga?
Hace 4 años.
4 años. En Marruecos
No, en toda España.
Sí.
He estado aquí 14 años. 13 años ahora, 14.
Okay. Continuing on with the journey, I climbed this insane mountain which had a view all over Malaga and had hundreds of steps to get up to. And then I decided to address my reflections from this challenge on the mountaintop. Hola a todos en el todo del mundo. Bienvenidos a mi YouTube canal. Soy Anas y ahora estoy en España, en Málaga, como pueden ver. Y ahora quiero hablar sobre mi progreso a aprender el español en 2 semanas. En la verdad me descubrí aprender un idioma en 1 semana o 2 semanas o 7 días es muy difícil, es imposible, porque necesitas más tiempo para practicar, para practicar a hablar con personas españoles. Ahora yo creo que soy soy mujer en escuchando que personas hablando de español. So look, I'm just going to be honest, and I could sit here and make it seem like, you know, in 2 weeks I learned all of Spanish, I'm now fluent, and I could have twisted it like that. But in reality, I think that it's not possible. Like, even though I was familiar with Spanish, like it's still, I think it takes time to be able to formulate sentences and words, and like 1 week is not enough. For sure, I made a huge amount of progress, and that's just kind of, I definitely feel like I can pick up words a lot better. I feel like, you know, I can, I was watching TV shows, like fully, like I was watching El Chapo in Spanish with subtitles, and I could understand most of the show. But to be able to speak it fluently and be someone who's proficient in it, I think it's going to take more time. It's impossible to do it in 2 weeks. Obviously, I spent some money coming here, and it was a good experience. Like I feel personally that it showed me the reality. I feel more driven to kind of make sure that kind of it happens now, and for sure, like a week or 2 weeks or even 4 weeks is not enough. So what we're going to do now, what I'm planning to do, is give it some more time, and I'm going to give it another 4 months from today, right? And I'm going to be like preparing every day, trying to revise and learn new stuff. I'm going to try and get a tutor and someone to practice with online, and then let's see my actual progress in 4 weeks. I've definitely become a lot better at it, and that's kind of that is the truth. And obviously the whole kind of day to day, I've survived on only Spanish speaking, like getting food, buying tickets, checking into my hotel, everything was in Spanish, but it was just not there. Like I don't feel like they felt comfortable speaking to me. It just felt like they it just made it longer, and it's not supposed to be like that. So that is, I think that's the verdict. If you like the video, then like the video, comment, like, subscribe, head over to the Instagram, follow that.